Well, afternoon everyone. Yeah, it's been a rotten couple of weeks. We've had non-stop rain for, it's got to be nearly a month now, and around here it's been absolutely sodden, so I've not really had an opportunity to get out, which is a bit of a shame, but has given me a chance to catch up on a few jobs. As you can see, some lovely colours now. Autumn is well and truly here now. What I've done is rather than go out my camera today, because to be honest, there doesn't seem to be a lot of subjects around at the moment to photograph, apart from the owls of course. I brought you back to the paddock. More specifically, I want to show you the location where I captured one of these fox images. It was one of my most memorable moments of 2019. It was a goal of mine for several years to capture not only a fox image, but spend time with the fox family, working with them and getting those really intimate shots, which you don't often get when you're just wandering around and you see a fox and capture an image. One of the most common questions I get is how I go about finding the wildlife that I photograph, and to be honest, sometimes it's just sheer luck. I mean, being in the right place at the right time. And I don't know if you can remember it was back in August, I released a vlog about badger photography, and it was on that evening when I was packing up I saw what I thought were hares in the corner of this paddock. It turned out to be 3 young fox cubs. So yeah, I'm just going to show you around the area where they were, and then sit down and talk to camera and just go through what it meant to me as that moment. You know, it was definitely one of my most memorable experiences this year, and yeah, show you some images and take you back to that moment in August when it all came together. As I mentioned, it was back in August when I was up here on a nice summer's evening photographing badgers in a set just over the back here, and I was packing up. It was around about 9:30. It was just really getting quite dark, and I noticed in the corner of my eye, just in here, in this bottom corner, was what I thought was, say, a couple of hares running around. And to my excitement and belief, because I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing, it was 3 fairly advanced fox cubs. Now, I've seen quite a lot of foxes in my time out with the camera, but they're normally just fleeting glimpses. So it's been quite a goal for many years, is to spend time sort of with a family of foxes, photograph them during their life. And although I picked up these foxes quite late in their development, they were fairly advanced cubs. It was just such a wonderful moment to find them, that I really couldn't believe my luck, really. I say it was just by pure chance that I saw them, and if I hadn't been here doing the badger vlog, then I wouldn't have found them. So they were here, here in this behind me, in this corner down here. I think the den is somewhere in these bushes here, and they were coming out in this area, just playing around. You know, the grass was quite long. It had just been cut for hay, so this field is left for hay. It gets cut once a year and then baled up. So it was just at that point where it had been cut and left in rows ready for baling. So they were busy playing around in this area, and they really were like clockwork. So you could almost set your clock by them. So how did I go about getting the photos? So what I did, and I'll show you now, is I decided to put a permanent hide in, and I put a permanent hide by this tree. So this is if you can see on this camera, this tree behind me. I'll show you. I'll spin the camera around now and show you. So this tree here is an extremely productive tree. So this is the tree where the barn owls nest. There's also kestrels in here. Tawny owls have nested in this tree. So this really is a big ash tree, but it's got a lot of hollow parts to it. It's quite dying, as you can see. There's a big branch that came down here during the storms a few years ago, and there's a very precarious branch somewhere up there hanging, if you can just see it, just there, waiting to come down the next big storm we have. So yeah, best not to set a hide underneath that area. But anyway, I decided what I would do is put a hide in just down in here in this corner. So I put a hide in just about here, looking out across the paddock over there, and the foxes were sort of coming out from underneath this tree here, and that's where they were regularly seen. So yeah, I put a hide in on the, I think this was on the Sunday. I think I filmed the vlog on the Saturday. I came back on the Sunday. I came back on the Sunday just to check that they wouldn't just passing through, and sure enough, they were back out in that evening. So I put a hide in that evening, and I left it for a week just for them to get used to the hide being in place. I didn't go and see it at all, just left it in place. And then the following week I came back and just sat, didn't bring a camera with me, just sat in the hide and watched. And sure enough, 6:30 every day, one cub came out. Always the bravest one of the three, and came out 6:30 and basically just played around in the area, started exploring. So yes, as you can imagine, my excitement was very, very high. And I eventually came back the following day with all the camera gear. Came into the hide well before 6:30, so I probably came in about an hour and a half before I'd seen them come out. And yeah, sure enough, that day they came out. The first one came out as regular as clockwork, closely followed by the second one, but there was no sign of the third one. And what had happened is that I think that one was much more advanced than the other two, so he had wandered off, and I think it had just basically gone off on his own. So there was just the two cubs that I spent a wonderful 2.5 weeks with, photographing on pretty much a daily basis for quite a while. And I got some amazing shots, some amazing moments. I mean, to see these animals in the wild is just, you see a fleeting glimpse is one thing, but to see and spend some really quality time with them, getting to know their individual personalities, is really something that I'll never forget. And I'm really hopeful that next year they come back again and they have a family here, and I can pick them up much earlier in their life cycle. So I want to get them when they're very, very small and watch them as they grow up. These cubs, obviously, when they're young like this, they're so innocent. They've got no fear particularly, and they're so playful. They're almost like pet dogs, really. I mean, so they would come out and they would play fight with each other, roll around, and I'll show you some of the images during this sort of speech. But you really get so attached to them. It's quite, I find it incredible that anyone would want to harm these beautiful creatures. It's beyond me why anyone would want to go out and shoot them. And unfortunately, I couldn't share the moment with other people particularly, just purely by fear that someone would track them down and shoot them. They do a lot of pheasant shooting on this site, and I was no way I was letting that location out the bag, really, just purely for their own safety, which is such a shame, because I'm a true believer that wildlife is there to be enjoyed by everybody, and I have no problem with people joining me if they want to come along and see the wildlife that I photograph. So yeah, so it was a closely guarded secret for a couple of weeks while I was photographing them. But yeah, just wonderful moments, and ones that I'll never forget. So over the 2 weeks that I spent with these foxes, day by day they gained in confidence. They spent less time here in this corner of the paddock, and more time sort of going off on small forays out around this paddock, and then eventually they would take longer and longer to come back, and I'd see less and less of them over that 2 weeks, to one day they just suddenly went. I had an odd glimpse of them elsewhere on this site, which is about 750-800 acres, so it's a huge place. But so far I've not managed to catch up with them again. They're long gone, and I do hope they're safe. You know, they really hope they've got a territory for themselves, and yes, and they're fed up and they're all ready for the winter months. I mean, when you see these foxes in such perfect condition, I mean, they've not got a mark on them, they're like just immaculate. It really is a privilege. So what I'll do is I'm going to show a few images now. They're really, as I said before, they really were quite playful. So one of these images I'll show you, I think I'll put it on the screen now, is one of the fox cubs running across the field almost in full flight. So he's got all his paws off the ground. And the story behind this image is that he was over by this hedgerow behind here, which is quite a distance actually between where I am with the hide in the corner here. Sorry, I'm going to spin you around like this, but there's a hide in the corner. So that he could actually, when I was taking the photos, he could hear the shutter going off. So I have a 1DX Mark II, which isn't exactly got the quietest shutter in the world. And when it's on high speed, it sounds like a bit like a machine gun. So he could hear the shutter going off, and he came bounding over towards the noise to investigate. And I got these wonderful moments as a series of images, probably 50 images, as he's coming towards the camera, bounding and leaping in full flight. So this is just one of many that I picked as one of my favourites to put up on social media and print. And the other image is this full frame one of the fox looking right down the lens of the camera. This is absolutely full frame. It was almost within minimum focus distance of the lens. But just look at those eyes, they just draw you in. Just an amazing creature, and he was probably 2-3 meters from the hide itself, so I couldn't fit any more of the fox in the frame. He had a quick look, almost looking through the front of the hide, trying to work out what was in there, and then just walked off and went on his way. So yeah, that's really my top wildlife moment of 2019. And yeah, it's takes some beating. I mean, I photographed otters on Mull, which was another amazing experience, and I'll probably talk about that in a future video. But this year, photographing these foxes, something that stays with me. It was truly amazing. Just want to really close the video by saying, you know, this fox encounter I had this year really was, you know, one of those special moments, and I don't mind admitting, you know, after having put in so much time in and seeing such beautiful animals out in the wild, it really is quite emotional. You know, I'm a grown man, but even I was almost reduced to tears. It really was, as I say, a special moment. So, you know, being out in nature is one of the great tonics. You know, no matter what, we all have sort of stresses and personal worries, family, work, whatever that might be. But getting outside in nature, whether it's just for a walk or with a camera, it's the best feeling ever. And you know, I really recommend it. I mean, and if you go out and you're out there enough, eventually you'll come across what I managed to see. You just never know what nature's going to throw up. And this fox encounter this year, or fox family encounter this year, was a clear example of that, and the feel-good factor it gives you. So, you know, whenever I'm feeling rough and a bit stressed, I just, you know, I take myself back to these moments, whether it's on Mull or it's you know, otters on Mull, or it's the diverse wildlife in Iceland, or this fox family encounter. It really is special. So I would generally recommend it. Even if you haven't got a camera, I mean, you can capture those moments on a phone. People say to me, well, I can't, you know, I haven't got your expensive gear. You don't need it. I mean, yes, I'm lucky enough to have professional end photography gear, and you know, I do produce images that I'm very personally very proud of, and I get some lovely comments. But you know, you don't need that sort of high-end gear to capture nature. As I say, just a phone or just being out there and having those memories of seeing beautiful things. Yeah, it's definitely, I would definitely recommend it. So yeah, get out there, enjoy nature. It's a wonderful time of year to be doing that now. Winter's coming, and at the moment with the autumn, there seems to be some beautiful colours around this year. I don't know if this year is any different than previous years, but I seem to be noticing them more this year. It seems to be much more vibrant colours. But get out there, have a quick walk, de-stress, enjoy nature, and yeah, see you out there.